Good evening, and welcome to Virtual Public Information Meeting number 1 for State Project 0301-0512, the Stamford Transportation Center Master Plan. My name is Craig Bordieri, and I am a Supervising Rail Officer with the Connecticut Department of Transportation, Office of Rail, Station Operations Unit. We appreciate your participation and time to attend this virtual meeting. We hope that everyone finds tonight's presentation informative and that we'll be able to address and answer any questions you may have. Tonight's agenda includes an introduction of the project team for the STC Master Plan. We will then provide an overview on the virtual meeting format, including Title VI rights information. Our planning consultant, VHB, will present on the scope of our study and the reasons we are undertaking this master planning effort. And finally, we will have a question and answer session. Now I'll introduce the project team. On the left side of the screen are pictures of the 3 presenters for tonight's presentation. Starting from the top, that's me, Craig Bordieri, Supervising Rail Officer of the Station Operations Unit. In the middle is Dan Baker. Dan is in the Office of Rail Station Operations Unit and serves as the department's project manager for the STC Master Plan. And in the lower left picture is Tony Sardelli. Tony is the project manager from VHB, the department's planning consultant for this assignment. On the right side, starting from the top, is Richard Jankovich. Rich is the department's rail administrator. Eric Bergeron is the department's assistant rail administrator of operations. Ure Kuljas is the department's assistant rail administrator of capital programs. Daryl Smith is VHB's team leader for transit and rail. And finally, we have David Wilcock. David is the national director of transit and rail for VHB. Now I will turn it over to Dan Baker, who will provide additional information about tonight's meeting. Dan?
Thank you, Craig, and good evening, everyone. My name is Dan Baker, and I'm the project manager assigned to the Stamford Transportation Center Master Plan. I'll be providing a brief overview of the virtual public information meeting format and how to participate and submit questions. This meeting is being recorded. The recording from tonight's virtual meeting will be posted on the project's website, which is www.stcmasterplan.com. as well as the Connecticut DOT website in the Virtual Public Information Meetings archive. Individuals with limited internet access can follow along to tonight's meeting via telephone by calling 1-888-566-5916 and entering the participant code 9977843 when prompted. Now let's go over the 3 ways you can participate with the project team during tonight's question and answer session. You can submit a question via email to the project email address, which is stcmasterplan@ct.gov. You can also leave your question via voicemail by calling 860-944-1111. You can also use the MS Teams live event chat to submit your question. We will review how to use the MS Teams live event chat a little later. The project team will be reviewing all methods of communication and will be posting any questions received via voicemail or email into the MS Teams Q&A chat log, as well as reading them aloud. Questions will be answered during the Q&A portion of this evening only. If you are unable to ask a question during tonight's meeting or think of additional questions after the meeting has ended, you can email your questions to the project's email address, which is stcmasterplan@ct.gov. Or you can leave a voicemail at 860-944-1111. Please note, if you leave a voicemail after tonight's meeting, you will have to reference the project number in your voicemail, which is 0301-0512. You can leave us your comments and questions regarding this first virtual public information meeting until March 21st, 2022. There will be a second virtual public information meeting and additional comment period later in the study process. No person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. The department strives to effectively engage all stakeholders in a consultative process from the earliest stages of project development, and we are always looking to improve this process. As such, we encourage you to take our post-meeting survey. A link to our survey and a QR code can be found on the screen and can be found on the aforementioned project website, www.stcmasterplan.com. Now, Tony from VHB will discuss with you the scope of the STC Master Plan and why we are undertaking this planning effort.
Thank you, Dan, and good evening, everyone. My name is Tony Sardilli, and I am the project manager for VHB. We have been retained by the Connecticut Department of Transportation to provide planning and conceptual design services in order to develop a master plan for the Stamford Transportation Center. Pre-COVID, the STC served approximately 28,300 customers each day and is the busiest intermodal facility in Connecticut. The general public, private shuttle operators, buses, and taxi and transportation network companies, such as Uber and Lyft, routinely contend to gain access to the physically constrained STC site. The purpose of this master plan is to provide a comprehensive review and evaluation of the existing STC complex and to provide recommendations and conceptual improvements that will lead to increased public and private transit use, as well as enhanced vehicular, bicycle, and pedestrian access. The goal is to develop a master plan that provides a new vision of the STC that transforms it into a best-in-class facility. Now that we've established the purpose and goal, what exactly is the STC master plan? The master plan will serve as a roadmap for the Connecticut Department of Transportation to follow for the advancement of transformative improvements at the STC. It will represent the vision of the STC for the future and serve as a strategic outline for it becoming a best-in-class facility. The STC master plan will be the basis for developing items such as a prioritized capital improvement plan, operating procedures, budgets, and/or other regulatory documents. The master plan will enable state and city officials to better manage change and to inform residents and businesses about the STC's characteristics, trends, and policies. It will guide the Connecticut Department of Transportation in municipal actions, including the management of the transportation agencies serving the STC and the development of future improvements. In short, the STC master plan is a method of translating the vision for the STC into specific actions. The STC master plan is comprised of several elements and tasks. In addition to providing recommendations and conceptual designs, the planning process includes an assessment of existing resources and issues, projections of future conditions and needs, and consideration of collective goals and desires. While the emphasis is on the buildings and the infrastructure, it will not ignore the important social, natural resource, and economic values of the community. I'd now like to dig a little deeper into some of the specific elements we are looking at, as well as some of the work we've begun or will be doing as we develop this master plan for the Connecticut Department of Transportation. While the STC master plan will be a fresh look at the facility and its campus, we are aware that over the years, numerous studies of the area and/or of the STC itself have been performed by different agencies. These include WestCog's private shuttle and urban transit studies, the city's master plan, and the Connecticut Department of Transportation's inspection of the STC itself. We will be reviewing these documents and others to establish the base information to be used in the development of the STC master plan. As part of this task, we will be performing research and information gathering on comparable state-of-the-art multimodal transportation center projects. These include Raleigh's Union Station, Moynihan Train Hall at Penn Station, and Denver's Union Station. We will be looking at these facilities to see how each approached items such as brand identity, visual and physical connectivity between various modes of transportations, as well as how they provide clarity of access and movement, overall customer experience, traveler amenities, and placemaking. In addition, we will look at how they organize transportation components in relationship to one another, including parking, pickup and drop-off, taxis, buses, bicycles, and pedestrians. The goal of this effort will be to determine what is and isn't working well at these facilities and what might be able to be applied with success at the STC. There are several stakeholders involved with the STC. These include the city, the Connecticut Department of Transportation, WestCog, bus and shuttle operators, TNCs, Metro North Railroad, Amtrak, elected officials, major employers, and civic groups. To date, 11 sets of interviews have been conducted with these stakeholders in order to help identify issues and opportunities, as well as to gather input on priorities and alternatives. In addition to these interviews, an online survey of STC users was conducted in September of 2021 to learn about their experiences and opinions of the facility. Questions focused on what users thought the STC was currently doing well, what they thought needed the most improvement, what their current usage of the STC was, and it also included an open-ended comment section. A second online user survey is planned and will focus on upcoming draft conceptual alternatives. There are several major public and private capital projects, both planned and in progress, in the area of the STC. These projects add further challenges that must be coordinated to minimize disruption to customers and to improve functionality at the site. We will be reviewing and evaluating these local, city, and state projects to garner an understanding of them and the operational impacts, both positive and negative, that they may pose on the master plan study area and our recommendations for the STC. I think it goes without saying that traffic in the area of the STC is an issue. We will be obtaining and reviewing traffic-related data, including existing traffic signal control plans, existing timing pattern information, traffic volumes, and crash histories at numerous intersections within the study area. With this information, we will develop traffic volume flow diagrams for existing and future build and no build conditions for these intersections. We will also prepare crash history summaries, including crash diagrams for key intersections. Using the data collected and work performed for the traffic elements, we will also be reviewing the station area roadways at and around the STC complex. These include the Stamford Urban Transitway, Atlantic Street, North State Street, South State Street, Washington Boulevard, and Station Place. We will then develop conceptual design improvements and recommendations for these roadways. We've already heard that the existing pedestrian flow, both within the STC itself as well as the area around it, is not as friendly as it could be or people want it to be. We will be evaluating the existing pedestrian flow at the STC and recommending changes to internal and external circulation. These paths of travel will be evaluated and changes recommended with the goal of improving clarity of pedestrian wayfinding and connectivity, enhancing the pedestrian experience, minimizing walking distances, and strengthening safe and convenient connectivity and access to station amenities, retail, ticketing, and transportation services. We will also be reviewing and evaluating universal accessibility on the paths of travel and recommending changes to areas to provide well-integrated universal access to the facility. This element of the master plan involves an evaluation of the existing customer waiting areas in the main station building, on rail platforms, at pickup drop-off areas, and at the bus and shuttle bays. This includes a look at not only the physical condition, but also the functional performance, capacity and accommodation of demand, clarity of access and use, and connectivity between waiting areas, rail platforms, and bus bays, and the quality of the customer experience. We will do this while also taking into consideration the user surveys and stakeholder interviews performed. One of the areas in need of improvement that we in the Connecticut Department of Transportation have heard a lot about is the wayfinding signage, specifically the need to improve and upgrade it. In addition to documenting and evaluating the existing signage, we will be developing a signage program and conceptual improvements that provide enhanced and streamlined static signage, as well as areas where we can introduce dynamic electronic signage to address current and future uses at and around the STC. These areas include the station building, roadway network, pickup drop-off zones, and the bus and shuttle area. As mentioned earlier, a bus and shuttle study at the STC was previously performed by WestCog, and we will be reviewing that study as base information for this element. We will build on that study by focusing on the recommendations presented in it and taking a holistic approach to a management plan for these for-hire vehicles. We'll look for areas of improvement to those recommendations based on new data made available. This is especially relevant given the rise in the use of TNCs, such as Uber and Lyft, in the 5+ years since the final planning document for that study was completed. The improvements and recommendations developed as part of the elements presented to you tonight will all come together and form the basis of a transformative vision for Station Place in the STC. We will develop recommendations aimed at creating a more engaging, convenient, safe, and aesthetically pleasing multimodal customer experience. The recommendations will establish brand identity, identify measures to increase sustainability, promote the use of public transit, and enhance connectivity and integration between exterior and interior circulation components. The overarching goal for the STC itself is to transform it into a single, unified, multimodal facility that is both dynamic and modern, or best in class. Work has already begun on the STC Master Plan, and several of the tasks involved with the elements presented tonight are underway. It is anticipated that concepts for the transformative vision will be completed this summer, and we will be back to present those and speak to you again this fall. Based on this timeline, we anticipate completing the STC Master Plan in the winter of 2022-2023. I will now turn things back over to Dan for the question and answer session. Dan?
Thank you, Tony. And that concludes the technical portion of our presentation. My name is Dan Baker with the Connecticut Department of Transportation, and I would like to thank everyone behind the scenes at the department and VHB who helped to put this virtual meeting together. We are going to keep the Q&A session information on the screen, and we will be answering any questions that came in during the presentation and answer any questions that come in during this live Q&A session. Please note that there could be a few minutes delay from the time questions are posted or received and addressed based on the manner they are submitted or the volume of questions coming in. In some cases, the team may not have the answer to a question at their fingertips and may need to respond or follow up at a later date. You can submit questions in 3 different ways during tonight's live Q&A session. You can submit your question using the MS Teams live chat feature. You can also email the project email address, which is stcmasterplan@ct.gov, or you can leave a voicemail of your question by calling 860-944-1111. The public comment period for tonight's virtual public information meeting ends March 21st, 2022. For those that are watching live on YouTube, you can click on the Show More button below the video, which will expand the video and provide the project email address and phone number to submit your questions. And with that, we are now going to start the live question and answer session. Okay, so the first question that we received via the chat is, what are the study boundaries of the STC Master Plan? And I'll be turning that over to Tony from VHB to respond.
Thank you, Dan. The study area includes North State Street to the north, Atlantic Street to the east, Station Place to the south, and this includes the footprint of the state-owned parking garage, the original footprint, as well as Washington Boulevard to the west. And that also includes the footprint of the new state parking garage that is currently under construction.
Thank you, Tony. And our next question that was submitted via the chat is, how can I receive updates about the STC Master Plan as it progresses? And I'll respond to that one. So you can go to our project website, which is www.stcmasterplan.com. Click on the tab, Get Involved. There is a section to submit your comments here and sign up for updates. You will enter your name, email address, and check the box that says Sign up to receive updates. Okay, and we'll be taking a look at any other questions that get submitted. Okay, so we have another question that was submitted via the chat. And that question is, what are your plans to improve safety for pedestrians walking to and from the station? There is a lot of danger for pedestrians walking on the wide, car-centric roads in the area. And Tony from VHB will respond to that question.
Great, thank you, Dan, and great question. We have several tasks as part of our scope of work for the master plan that involve looking at the roadways. You heard me mention about the traffic and station area roads, where we're looking at traffic volumes and incidents and accidents at intersections. We'll be taking that information and we'll be making conceptual recommendations and improvements for the station area roadways. We also have the pedestrian paths of travel task that I mentioned, and that is both internal and external. So, to answer your question, this is obviously on the external side. We understand and we've heard that there's some of the sidewalks could be wider, should be wider. There's a lot of traffic flows over on the north side of the station. We understand that traffic and we've observed it, moves at a relatively high speed and may not be the safest for pedestrians. So yes, we will be looking at pretty much anything and everything we can do within the constrained and limited footprint that we have to increase the comfort level for pedestrians and the safety for pedestrians.
Thank you, Tony. And just as a reminder, you can submit your questions 3 different ways during tonight's live Q&A session. You can use the MS Teams live chat feature. You can email the project email address, which is stcmasterplan@ct.gov, or you can leave a voicemail with your question by calling 860-944-1111. And there is a QR code on the screen to a post-meeting survey to provide feedback on the virtual public information meeting format to the Connecticut Department of Transportation. So we encourage everyone who joined tonight's meeting to participate in that post-meeting survey. And now we will be looking at the next question that came in via the chat. And that question is anyone on the committee making decisions from the handicapped special needs community? I don't see any accommodations made for those of us with walking difficulties. A football field or 3 is a very long obstacle. And that question will be answered by Tony at VHB.
Thanks, Dan. Yes, again, as part of our task for the pedestrian paths of travel, both internal and external to the STC, the main goal of that is to improve the clarity of the pedestrian wayfinding and connectivity and enhance the pedestrian experience. And that includes reviewing and evaluating universal accessibility on these paths of travel, as well as recommending changes to areas and to provide well-integrated universal access to the facility. I do also know that the STC is undergoing an elevator and escalator project to improve ADA access, and I don't know if anyone from the department wants to speak further on that project, as well as any other potential projects in the area.
Yeah, hi Tony, this is Yure Fujis. I'm the Assistant Rail Administrator for the Office of Rail, and I can speak a little bit about the elevators and the escalators improvement project. This is a big project, we did see the need to rehab and replace, the existing escalators and the elevators. So we're very glad that that's moving forward. As you will see over the next months, and years, there will be a lot of coordination for the work. Right now, the construction project has started, and the big truck outages are going to start soon. The work is going to start soon. So those are the details that we have right now, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you, Yure. We will now move on to the next question that came in via email. In consideration of the state-of-the-art projects, has the state considered European transportation centers? And Tony from VHB will respond to that question.
Yes, so no, we did not look into European transportation centers. We looked at relatively newer constructed ones in the United States that we thought, and in conjunction with the department, kind of paralleled the Stamford Transportation Center and what we could do, and reports we heard out of those facilities, and actually several of them that we've visited ourselves, not necessarily as part of this project, but to look at those items and the success, what worked well, what didn't work well. There's a few of them where they had some grandiose plans and those didn't necessarily work out yet. So we're looking at the positives, the negatives, the goods and the bads of both of those. And I think, as I mentioned, what we want to do is take what we think from these facilities that might be a good idea and might be able to be implemented, but with success here at the STC. It's really about giving you a better customer experience and making it a best-in-class facility for you.
Thank you, Tony. Our next question that was submitted via the chat is, will there be a second online user survey for the public to provide input on draft concepts And how will the public be made aware about the survey? And I'll go ahead and answer that one. Yes, there will be a second online user survey later in the study process. The second survey will present the public with draft concepts for station improvements and will ask the respondent to select or rank their preferred ones. There will be large posters with QR codes to the survey throughout the station, as well as in-person outreach with staff handing postcards with survey information. The survey link will also be posted to the project website and will be emailed out to individuals that sign up for project updates via the website.
Dan, if I could just add, Dan, I think I didn't hear you mention about we're anticipating in the fall for the second survey, the online user survey.
Yes, that is per the schedule. We're anticipating that will be in the fall of 2022. Okay, and we are checking to see if any new questions have come in. And one additional question that came in through the chat is, when will the STC master plan be completed? And I will turn that over to Craig from Connecticut DOT to respond to that question.
Thank you, Dan. And I think it did come up earlier in the presentation. It is expected that the master plan will be completed later this year in the winter of 2022-2023.
Thank you, Craig. And as a reminder, questions can also be submitted to the project email address, stcmasterplan@ct.gov. And you can call the project voicemail, which is 860-944-1111. Checking with the project team to see if any new questions have come in. We received another question. Does the study include the existing garage? Tony from VHB will respond to that question.
Yes, the study includes the original footprint of the existing garage, so not the newer portion of it, but that existing portion along Station Place. That is the department graciously gave that to us to take a look at it and what we think can and can't be done there and integrated into the master plan. So we are looking at that section, yes.
Thank you, Tony. In just a moment, as we check the various ways for questions to be submitted, there's another question that came in via the chat. And that question is, what are your plans to improve safety for pedestrians walking to and from the station? There is a lot of danger for pedestrians walking on the wide, car-centric roads in the area. And Tony from VHB will respond to that question.
Great, thank you. Yeah, as I mentioned, we have several tasks that look at, we have the traffic, the stationary roads, and the pedestrian paths of travel. And in all of those, the pedestrians themselves kind of overlap into several of the things we're looking at here. And we'll be looking at things such as, the basic provide a wider sidewalk, but we also have to look at that against how it handles the traffic flow and how it impacts the traffic flow and the number of lanes that we can fit, in an area and how many lanes are needed. We'll also be looking at the pickup and drop off areas, not just for the kiss and ride where people are dropping someone off and then leaving, but also for the taxis and the TNCs and Uber and Lyft and how they access the site and get in and out and do everything in a safe manner. We'll also be looking at the bus and shuttle area. On the north side, I think if you saw one of the pictures in the presentation, you saw the long sidewalk where all the buses have to cross to come out, and there was a person walking with a cane in that picture, and it just goes to show, right? We have these areas, and safety is a paramount concern, and we are going to be looking at anything and everything we can do to improve safety for pedestrians. And I just like to point out that when we say pedestrians, we also include bicyclists in that, basically just somebody not driving in a motorized vehicle to and from the site. So We are looking at bicycles as well. We've seen some comments and questions earlier on in the surveys and the stakeholder interviews regarding the bicycle parking and that, and we will be looking at that and taking that into consideration as well.
Thank you, Tony. And as a reminder, you can visit our project website, www.stcmasterplan.com, for more information and to sign up for future project updates. A recording of tonight's presentation will be added to the project website. And if you think of additional questions after tonight's live Q&A session ends, please submit your question to the project email address or project voicemail. And if you leave your question via voicemail, please reference the project number, which is 0301-0512. And I see we have another question that was submitted via the chat. And that question is, how important is pedestrian access and bicycle access and bike racks in the STC master plan? And that question will be answered by Yuri Kulgis.
Thank you, Dan. Yeah, this is Yuri. Just to follow up on what Tony stated at the previous question, safety is the top priority for us, for the department, for the project, for what we're doing now. And, definitely this is very important, as Tony mentioned, pedestrians and bicyclists are very important in this area. Not only that, but we have also been working on wayfinding, signage, anything that we could do to make this a safer place. It is a very congested area, and definitely, this is going to be on the top of the decisions that we make, so those are good questions, and we want to just reiterate that safety is number one for us. Thanks, Dan. Thank you.
Thanks, Yuri. And now we'll just take a moment to look at any new questions that have been submitted. As a reminder, we have a post-meeting survey. There's a QR code shown on the screen, and that survey is to provide the Connecticut Department of Transportation with feedback regarding our virtual public information meeting format. So we encourage all participants to take that survey after the meeting. And I see that we have another question that was submitted via the chat. And that question is, do you have any plans for South State Street? I am not a fan of having high-speed traffic going through the station. And I will turn it over to the project team to respond to that question.
Well, thanks, Dan. Tony Sardilli with BHB again. Yes, as part of our traffic and station area roadways task, we will be looking at South State Street. We do understand, and we've heard and seen that the traffic can go pretty fast through there, and with pickup and drop-offs, it can be not necessarily the safest of place. So we are definitely looking at that to see what we can do to improve the situation there.
Thank you, Tony. We encourage everyone to visit the project website, www.stcmasterplan.com. And another question has come through via the chat. And that question is, has the local zoning been updated in anticipation of the project, or is that still to be done? And I will turn it over to the project team to respond to that question.
Thanks, Dan. Tony Sirley again. As far as if it has been updated in anticipation of the project, well, the master plan itself it's a project, but it's not just one project. It could serve to have like smaller individual breakout projects come out. So several projects can come out of the overall master plan. And one of our tasks under the review prior studies and other information and data that we collect is to review the city of Stamford's. They have a draft station area rezoning development scenario that just recently was released in draft form. So we will be looking at that and taking that into consideration as we develop the master plan. And I'm sure I'm speaking, the city's been involved with us and the department, and we're working hand in hand with them, and we will be sharing information back and forth. So I don't know if Dan, if the department wants to add anything further on that.
Yeah, I'll turn it over to Craig or Yuri if they would like to add to that response.
No, I think I'm good, Dan. I don't know, Craig, if you wanted to add something to that.
Thanks. Nothing further to add. Thank you, Dan.
Okay, very good. We're just checking to see any new questions that have been submitted. And a new question that came in via the chat is, how important is pedestrian access and bicycle access bike racks in the STC master plan? And Tony?
Oh, thanks, Dan. Yeah, I think we've addressed this a little bit already there, but again, pedestrians, bicycles, very important. We've talked to stakeholders. We've had the online user surveys. We've heard people have been loud and clear on wanting it to be a safer, more comforting, more inviting environment for pedestrians and for bicyclists. And we are looking at those and taking that into account. And that includes, additional and or relocating bicycle racks if and where needed and where we can do that. So we are definitely considering that during this master plan.
Thank you, Tony. And we did receive another question via email. And as we load that up, reminder, the project email is stcmasterplan@ct.gov. And the question that came in via email is, my name is Veronica Shavers. I am the union president for the CT Transit Union employees. How are you going to reroute the buses when this project takes effect? And will there be parking at the transportation center for the bus operators to park their vehicles? Where will we accommodate the passengers? Remember, we move this city. And that question will be answered by Yuri Kulgis at Connecticut DOT.
Thanks, Dan, and thank you, Veronica. That's an excellent, question, or many questions that you are posing to us. And we definitely agree that you move the city. It is important for City Transit to coordinate everything that you do with the project. What is nice about this, Veronica, is that this is the plan. This is the master plan, what we're doing right now. And there are going to be a lot of future and ongoing coordination as we decide, how we move forward from the planning phase to the actual projects and how we're going to be doing that. And definitely, you are a big stakeholder on this in Stamford and what we're doing now. So definitely we're going to be talking and coordinating with you and all the stakeholders to see what's best as we move with these projects. These may be broken into smaller projects, larger projects. So at this point, that's what we're doing right now with the master plan. And we'll definitely be having a future conversation and coordination with you. Thank you. Thank you for the good questions.
Thank you, Yuri. And a reminder, if you have additional questions after tonight's live Q&A session ends, please submit your question to the project email address or project voicemail. And if you leave your question via voicemail, please reference the project number, which is 0301-0512. And I think we received this question earlier in the presentation, but we will respond to it again. The question is, when will the STC master plan be completed? And Craig Bordieri from Connecticut DOT will respond to that question.
Thank you, Dan. It is our intention that the master plan will be completed toward the end of this year, 2022, and early 2023.
Thank you, Craig. And we did receive another question to the project voicemail. And that question is, how are bicyclists being considered in the plan? And I believe Tony Sardilli responded to a similar question earlier in the presentation, but I will reiterate that the customer experience for users that bike to and from the station is being considered in a number of different tasks, specifically the station area roads, pedestrian and bicycle paths of travel, and the transformative vision for station place tasks. We'll be evaluating opportunities for safer and enhanced access for bicycles, as well as more protected and accessible storage locations and increased amenities. And we received another question via the chat. And that question is, will eminent domain of properties on Atlantic Street be done to accommodate this project? And Yuri Kuljas from Connecticut DOT will respond to that question.
Thanks, Dan. And there was another question too related to eminent domain. Let me read that question where it says, discussions have occurred with South End residents that eminent domain will be used to widen Atlantic Street for bike lanes. 19 properties will be affected. And as you mentioned, Dan, the other question, will eminent domain of properties on Atlantic Street be done to accommodate this project? And as we mentioned before, we're still in the planning phase. We're looking at everything, in that area. We have used eminent domain before, but that's one of our last resources, last alternatives. Right now, we are focusing on listening to all of the stakeholders to see what best for the location. So I just wanted to respond, at this point, it's very early to determine what we're doing or what we're doing on the next steps, because we're right now in the planning phase. But those are good questions. So I think when we start having projects, we're going to have additional public meetings, public hearings, and we'll be moving forward, with the next steps and with the coordination. So hopefully that responds to those two questions. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Yuri. And our team is reviewing the project email address as well as the voicemail box to see if any new questions have come in at this time. And as a reminder, the public comment period for tonight's virtual public information meeting ends March 21st, 2022. And if you think of additional questions, you can submit those questions to the project email address or leave a voicemail to 860-944-1111. And please reference state project number 0301-0512. And we received another question via the chat, and that question is, will the public have an opportunity to comment on the proposed plan improvements? And that question will be answered by Tony Sardilli at VHB.
Thanks, Dan. And yes, absolutely. That is the plan and goal of the second online user survey, which everyone will be able to take. We will be developing draft conceptual plans along with the state, and we will put those out there for the public to see, and then we'll be inviting comments either through the survey and then again at the virtual public information meeting number 2, which we'll be holding in the fall, and that'll be to get your feedback. We want your feedback. We value your feedback. So yes, absolutely.
Thanks, Tony. And we received another question via the project email. And that question is, have you thought about ways to do eco-friendly initiatives with this project, like city bikes in New York City, electric bikes, etc.? And I will respond to the beginning portion of that question. And certainly as we evaluate the paths of travel for both pedestrians and bicycles, we're also looking at opportunities to increase bicycle racks and bike storage at the station. So with that, we'll be looking at amenities such as bike repair stations and bike share programs as part of the evaluation process. We're looking at enhancing all the customer waiting areas at the facility, both interior and exterior. And I don't know if Tony from VHB would like to expand on that response.
Actually, no, Danny did a great job.
Very good. Okay, and the team is just reviewing the multiple forms that questions are being submitted to. So once again, I would like to remind the public about the post-meeting survey. The QR code to the survey is shown on the screen, and that survey is to provide the Connecticut Department of Transportation with feedback regarding our virtual public information meeting format and process. So we encourage everyone to participate after today's meeting. We'd like to thank everybody for their participation up to this point. And you can sign up if you haven't already to receive future updates about the project at www.stcmasterplan.com under the Get Involved page.
And then this is Yura. There was a question that came from the chat. The question says, does the plan take into account Governor Lamont's recent executive order that DOT projects need to target BMT reduction over the next few decades? And the answer to that is yes. Many of you are familiar that Governor Lamont signed that on December 16th of last year. And that's also part of the master plan. We're looking at that executive order.
Thank you, Yuri. And we received a follow-up email from Veronica Chavers with the Connecticut Transit Union, and her comment was, please keep the special needs and disability passengers in mind during this process. This is very important. Thank you for reiterating that important point, Veronica. And the team is still reviewing the various forms of questions. And just as a reminder, you can email us at stcmasterplan@ct.gov, and the public comment period for tonight's VPIM ends March 21st, 2022. So there's 14 days to submit any follow-up questions and comments that we will respond to during the public comment period. And sorry, we're just working through a couple technical glitches on our end, making sure that we're seeing all of the questions that get submitted. And if we happen to miss your question that you submitted tonight, the project team will follow up with you after the meeting to respond accordingly. And it looks like we received a voicemail question. And that question is, can you please repeat who the stakeholders were that were interviewed in the beginning stages of the master plan? And that question will be responded by Tony Sardilli at VHB.
Yes, hi. There were 11 sets of interviews have been conducted with stakeholders to date. And they included Metro North Railroad, Amtrak, the city, the Department of Transportation, WestCog, bus and shuttle operators, elected officials, major employers, as well as civic groups.
Thank you, Tony. And it looks like we received another question to the project email. And that question is, will there be any impact to nearby residents and or businesses? And if so, will those individuals be invited to meetings as plans get proposed? So Tony, if you could respond to the beginning portion of that question, and I can take the second part.
Sure. I'll just say, you know, this is a master plan, so we are in the planning phase, and you know, it's more of a global look at things and how things can come together and function better and give that transformative vision. And from that, right, it's coming from a construction background as well. You know, we're not going to close down the whole study area and rebuild the whole thing from the ground up in one project. It would come out likely in different size projects, coming out with funding and other considerations as you build these. And there's always inevitably impact during any construction project, especially in tightly constrained urban areas such as this. And you know, and every consideration is taken into account to minimize disruption and impacts to nearby residents, nearby businesses, the traveling community. So yes, we will, you know, when it gets to construction and these projects move along, there will likely definitely be some impacts and some inconveniences, but they will be minimized to the extent possible.
Thank you, Tony. So there is a question that was just submitted via the chat. And that question is, will there be considerations for PPP, public-private partnerships, as part of the master plan? And Yuri, if you would be able to respond to that question.
Sure, thanks, Dan. Yes, you know, right now we're still looking at different things as we talk. This is a planning phase, you know, where we are right now with the master plan. So that's not out of the table to look at a public-private partnership. And as we move along, you know, with the additional interviews, with the additional coordination, and with the public and the stakeholders, that's not out of the table.
Thank you, Yuri. And a new question was submitted via the chat. And that question is, will changes eliminate drivers dropping passengers off in the road, U-turns, parking on the side of Station Place, parked cars blocking entrances to the garage? If not, will there be police to enforce the law? There is none now. And that question will be answered by Tony Sardilli at VHB.
Thanks, Dan. So yes, we will be looking, and again, as part of our station area roads project, task, as well as the, you know, pedestrian paths of travel. We're going to be looking at doing anything and everything that we can do to make this safer, make it easier for people to drop off and pick up, and to hopefully prevent. I know on South State Street, one of the issues is vehicles don't like to pull into the pickup drop-off area because then they essentially get trapped in there. So they're pulling off into the sidewalk, partially into the lane, and passengers are hopping out and jumping the fence to get to their to get to their train, bus, wherever they need to go to. So while we will do anything and everything we can, you know, that's any great design, good design, we can't prevent somebody from doing that. And I think the police, that would be a question more for the city as far as enforcement goes. But I can tell you from a design perspective and a conceptual design perspective, we will be looking at and doing everything that we, you know, can to make this a better and safer place for pedestrians and vehicles alike.
Thank you, Tony. And just to add to the question about Station Place, yes, you know, operations and enforcement on Station Place will be considered in the master plan, and will potentially be worked into recommendations for operating the bus and shuttle area, as well as pickup and drop off locations on Station Place. And
Dan, if I could, I'll just add, I did see a question come through that made a suggestion of putting a pickup and drop off and I apologize if I don't get it 100% here, for TNCs and the like in the area of the footprint of the existing section of the garage. And I would just wanted to point out that that is something we've already discussed as part of the planning team. And that is something we will be looking at as to using that area potentially for a pickup and drop off for both kiss and ride, taxis, TNCs, et cetera.
Thanks for adding to that, Tony. And at this time, we're still reviewing to see if any new questions have been submitted. And a question just came in via the project email, and it says that VHB was just talking about projects being developed. Are these commercial developments within or outside of the project area, or are they projects just relating to improving the efficiency of the STC, like ramps, roadways, and signage? And Tony, I think that really encompasses a lot of the different tasks of our master plan. So if you could potentially respond to that question.
Sure, and I'm not sure if I'm interpreting the question correctly, Dan, but as you read it, my brain went immediately to the summary of development projects tasks that I mentioned, and those would be state and local projects that are going on around the area of the STC, and how that impact would be to the STC and the site itself. If another building was going in that's going to bring in, 1,000 new employees, how does that impact the STC? And that's what I mentioned, that there's these challenges that we have to coordinate with these other projects to make sure that we can improve the functionality at the site. And those projects, we'd review and evaluate them to not just understand them, but as well as the operational impacts, both positive and negative, that they're going to pose on us for the master plan and the site.
Thank you, Tony. And we just received another question via the chat. And that question is, how important is the voice of the property owners around the STC master plan project? And Yuri Kulgis from Connecticut DOT will respond to that question.
Thanks, Dan. And we also received an email, the email says, will there be any impact to nearby residents and or businesses? And if so, will those individuals be invited to meetings as plans get proposed? So the answer to both questions is yes. The property owners, the voice is very important. We want to hear from you. First, we want to thank you for attending this public meeting. As Dan mentioned, and you can see it on your screen, you have an email address, you have the post-meeting survey. Dan also mentioned about the website. So please feel free to ask us any questions, to give us ideas. We're also, anything that we do, we're gonna be sharing the information with everyone. And yes, you will be part of the public information meetings. So thank you for being part of this plan, and thank you for caring about the transportation service and also about the transportation center in Stamford. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Yuri. And the team is still reviewing to see if any new questions are coming in. And at this time, it looks like we are nearing the end of questions. I would just like to thank everyone for participating in tonight's meeting. You can visit our project website, www.stcmasterplan.com, to sign up for future updates. You can also submit questions to the project email address, which is stcmasterplan@ct.gov. And it looks like we just received one more question. Will you consider closing Station Place to use as part of the parking garage, which can include drop-off, pickup, spikes in taxis? And I'll turn it over to the project team to respond to that question.
Thanks, Dan. Tony Certainly at VHB here again. Yes, we will. The department has said that they want a fresh look and a new vision. So one of the options we will look at is potentially closing Station Place. And we would look at that in conjunction with our other tasks of the traffic and station area roads. The data we collect and we project out future build and no build volumes for traffic may basically tell you that it just can't work, but it might tell you it can work. So we have not taken anything off the table at this time. We are still in the conceptual, think outside the box vision phase, which is exactly what we're going to be doing and presenting. And we're doing that in conjunction with the department, and we'll be coming up with our concepts that show them that.
Thank you, Tony. And as a reminder, we will be having a second public information meeting, which is projected to take place later in 2022 in the fall. And at that public meeting, we will be presenting various concepts for station improvements as part of the master plan and requesting the public's feedback on those proposed improvements. And as a reminder, we have a post-meeting survey with a QR code on the screen, and the survey is to provide the Department of Transportation with feedback on the virtual public information meeting format and process. So we encourage all participants to take that post-meeting survey. And we seem to get another question regarding eminent domain. Will eminent domain be used to take homes on Atlantic Street? And I will turn that over to the project team to respond to that question.
Dan, Tony, I'm sorry, the eminent domain to take homes on Atlantic Street?
Yes, the question is, will eminent domain be used to take homes on Atlantic Street?
Well, that's probably a good question. At this time, I don't, envision our concept plans potentially impacting homes on Atlantic Street. And as far as if that did occur, or the state had a future project that occurred, the state has a process that they would go through for any property that they need to acquire. The same process they use for any project that has property that would need to be acquired for it. I don't know, Dan, if you or someone else in the department wants to add in any more on that one.
Sure. At this time, that is not a focus of the STC master plan. As Tony mentioned, our study area boundaries really are the 4 streets surrounding the Stamford Transportation Center master plan in the immediate area. So we're really not expanding our master planning concepts and proposed improvements outside of the immediate area surrounding the STC. And the team is just reviewing to see any additional questions that have come in via the project voicemail, email, or MS Teams chat. And there's a recent question that came in via the chat. And that question is there a plan to incentivize consolidation of corporate shuttle services and shift some of those trips over to the public bus system? And Tony Sardilli from VHB will respond to that question.
Great, thanks, Dan. I really can't speak on the incentivizing consolidation of that, but I can tell you that during our stakeholder interviews and in our bus and shuttle, the task along with the TNCs and taxi services, we are looking at ways to consolidate as well as to shift some of those trips over to the CT transit system. That's definitely something that's been discussed. We currently discussing and will keep discussing as part of the buses, shuttles, taxis, and TNCs. We're also looking at recommendations to a management plan and how you manage who has access in and out and how they access the site. It's our understanding, right now, Uber and Lyft are, and the TNCs are able to just kind of pull in and drop off, where taxis have their own setup, and CT Transit and the private shuttles are on the opposite side. So we're looking at that globally, the for-hire vehicles, looking at that, all together to come up with recommendations for a best a management plan for all the different for-hire vehicle types.
Thank you, Tony. And at this time, we are looking to see if there are any additional questions. And there was another question that was submitted via the chat, and it is, will you consider using the sideways elevator by ThyssenKrupp? I'll turn it over to the project team to respond to that question.
Oh, okay, Tony, sort of VHB again here. Well, I'll be the first one to be honest that the sideways elevator from ThyssenKrupp there, I did look them up, and I think we're thinking more of a people mover, like an airport. Obviously for those with potentially the inability or difficulty with walking longer distances. And everything is still on the table at this time, so it's definitely something we will look into, as well, the feasibility and where we could potentially use something like that. But we will look into anything and everything for universal access and making it a more customer friendly locale for you.
Thank you, Tony. And just a reminder, you can visit the project website, www.stcmasterplan.com, to receive updates as documents get released throughout the project. We will be uploading them to the website. There will also be a Get Involved feature. There is a Get Involved feature on the project website where you can submit comments throughout the process, and you can sign up to receive updates. And our team is taking one more look through the questions. And just a reminder, if we happen to miss your question tonight, we will follow up with you post-meeting and aim to get in contact to answer your question. Just want to say thanks again to the department staff and VHB who helped put together tonight's virtual public information meeting. A lot of work went on behind the scenes to make this meeting a success. We hope the presentation to this point has been informative. And it looks like we received another question. We are getting some multiples of questions, so we're just making sure that they aren't repeats. There is a question that came in via email about who does Guernsey Street parking belong to? It's open to the public right now. Is this part of the new development relating to the master plan? And Craig Bordieri from Connecticut DOT can respond to that question.
Thank you, Dan. Guernsey Street is actually a City of Stamford local road. So anything affecting that area would be in conjunction with the city.
Right, that is not part of the anything that we've looked at as part of the master plan or plan to be looking at as part of the master plan.
Thanks, Craig and Tony. And at this time, it looks like the questions have come to an end. So we would like to thank the public's participation during tonight's virtual public information meeting and question and answer session. We really appreciate all those who submitted questions. We hope that you found this presentation to be informative. Like we mentioned previously, we will be holding an additional virtual public information meeting. So stay tuned. Please visit our project website, www.stcmasterplan.com, for project updates. And please feel free to utilize the public comment period for tonight's virtual public information meeting. That public comment period is open for 14 days and will come to an end on March 21st, 2022. So if we missed your question, or if you think of a question after tonight's meeting, please make sure that you submit that question to the project email address, stcmasterplan@ct.gov. And one last reminder, please visit our post-meeting survey. There's a link to the survey on the project website and a QR code on the screen to that meeting survey to provide the Department of Transportation with feedback regarding tonight's virtual public information meeting format. So thanks again to the department staff and VHB, and thanks to the public for your participation during tonight's virtual public information meeting for the Stamford Transportation Center Master Plan. We hope you have a good evening. Thank you.